So when we're looking at live blood, these are the red blood cells, or the erythrocytes. They're fermenting, much like a banana would ferment, getting its spots. These red blood cells have white spots. These white spots are indication of fermentation. The cells are breaking down into sugar, and associated very much with diabetic type symptomologies. Individual folks that have high blood sugars or even low blood sugars will show these types of cells in blood. So we see these actual fermentations taking place on the red blood cells, much like when bananas get their spots. Bananas melting. Diabetes mellitus means to melt into sugar. And this is what happens to cells, which gives rise to an increase in blood sugars or glucose in the plasma. Here we see a white blood cell, a neutrophil. It's moving, it's streaming. You can actually see the movement of that. White blood cells, particularly neutrophils, are significant because they're the garbage collectors or the pool sweepers of the internal environment. They provide cleanliness, and so they move through the blood plasma, picking up food particles, bacteria, yeast, to excuse me, to purify the blood. So they use a process by which they move through the blood plasma to pick up any foreign matter that's not supposed to be there. Here you can actually see the white blood cell pulling a platelet from behind. Here you can see bacterial cells as well as yeast cells. So here you can see another red blood cell and the fermentation, the crenation or the transformation of red blood cells, giving rise to bacteria. The indentation of the red blood cells indicating a dehydration of the blood or a lack of hydration. Here again you see another fermentation spot on the red blood cell, indicating the diabetic symptomology. Here you can see some more transformation taking place in the red blood cell formation, even to a point where it will give birth to various coccoid forms, bacterial forms, like mycoplasma. So we see all different shapes and sizes of the red blood cells. This little round acid crystal. Acid crystals are chelated acids. The body chelates acids in order to protect the alkaline pH of the fluids, particularly the plasma, which is 92 to 94% water. Here we see the mycoplasma or bacterial or coccoid bacterial cells coming off the red blood cell. Here we see echinocytes. These are red blood cells that are giving birth to bacterial cells. We can see these bacterial cells coming off the membrane of the red blood cell. Here we see the fermentations of the red blood cells, very typical in type 1 diabetics. And we see the fermentations here in all these red blood cells. These would be the size here. These are a little bit smaller microcytes. These are more normal red blood cells. And these here are all called shadow cells. A deficiency in the bilipid membrane and a deterioration or disintegration of the lipid membrane, where the cells have lost their oxygen, as if someone had turned the lights out on the cell. This right here is a heterogeneous symplast, a combination of various bacteria, yeast, and other acidic toxins in an aggregation or a city. In fact, I refer to it as a city of garbage. Very common in diets that are high in proteins. More diabetic cells or fermenting red blood cells, very typical in in diabetics, particularly type 1 diabetics.